Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a good weekend. Welcome to another episode of Late Nights with Lenin. It's nice to have so many people here. It would be even cooler to have more people because the more people who read Lenin, the smarter people get and the less annoying they become, is what I've noticed. And that's actually worth it. Just like even if there's nothing else changes, just to make them less annoying is so worth it. So yeah, recommend this to your friends, families, enemies, trolls, whatever. So today it seems like our Vosh had a moment. Janet, want to bring that up? So yeah, somebody made a comment about On Authority, and he said, I have not read that book, except I printed this out this afternoon when he did it. Page 1, page 2, page 3. Okay, actually there's two whole pages. 1, 2. There's about half a page here and another half a page. So it is 2 whole pages and 2 half pages. So at most it's about 3 pages. 3 pages is not a book. But Vosh can absolutely use a little bit of this reading. Let me just give you the first few sentences. A number of socialists have latterly launched a regular crusade against what they call the principle of authority. It is sufficient for them to say that this or that act is authoritarian for it to be condemned. This summary mode of procedure is being abused to such an extent that it has become necessary to look into the matter somewhat closely. Authority, in the sense in which the word is used here, means the imposition of the will of another upon ours. On the other hand, authority presupposes subordination. Now, since these two words sound bad and the relationship which they represent is disagreeable to the subordinate party, the question is to ascertain whether there is any way of dispensing with it. Two bad sounding words. That's exactly what Vosh's entire politics was. 2 bad sounding words. So, yeah, he could have used a little bit of it. And then Engels makes a really good example with trains. And this example gets even worse with planes. Basically, if you don't listen to the authority of the air traffic controller, you and everyone dies. So, authority is only bad if depending on what the authority is being used for and against. Like, if you're using it to kill Nazis, go for it. I mean, yeah. So, good morning. If you're from China, it's a nice Sunday morning there, I believe. Apparently China has some kind of weapon that it took the U.S. intelligence state by surprise. What else do we have? Anything else that's important? Let's see. I don't think so, really. I'm sure there is, but nothing's popping up. And on TikTok, somebody two people tagged me on two TikToks. Oh God, Putin was mistranslated. I remember now. Okay, Dave Chappelle's mom is apparently a CIA agent who worked for the coup government after Lumumba. Yeah, it's like so weird how this is like this is so bizarre. U.S. submarine crashed on something at the South China Sea, like a rock or something. Who knows? So their guidance system's off. Yeah, Dave Chappelle's mom. I'm gonna figure this more out. But the TikTok videos, I'm gonna try to see if I can debunk it by the end of the show. But if not, we're just gonna let's. Oh, by the way, on Monday, Comrade Zoo's gonna join us again for another episode of Monday Mornings with Mao at 9 in the morning this Monday. Let's see. What else do we have to talk about besides like a global climate catastrophe, a food crisis? I don't know. Apocalypse. I don't know what else there is to talk about. Without any further ado, I guess we have Jay from Fred Hampton Leftist. And my favorite part of this episode was when he learned of what happened to the biggest landlord in Russia. I was like, yeah. So let's, I guess we will be, this like is a little over an hour, and I guess Putin was also, again, mistranslated. He did not, okay, because he has to dumb fucking... Okay, sorry. I'm going to have to get this, okay? Today we have Jay from Fred Hampton Left. So, Jay, I take it you live in the West Coast?
I do. I live in California, Southern California. Yes.
And is that why so what made you be part of Fred Hampton Left?
Well, it was an idea that sparked from conversations we had with Rome. So Rome, Nick, and I were having conversations about doing a network where it was from a Black perspective. So that was the initial idea. And, that things kind of, we talked about it and tossed it around, and we were all doing our individual things. So we were still doing that, and the discussions kind of stalled for a little bit. Then, we would have each other on our, on panels. And on one of the panels, it was so good. We were like, yeah, this right here, we need to bottle this and keep, doing this. And that was Fred Hampton. That group of panel became the first 6 members of Fred Hampton Lefties. So that's kind of how it started. So it just started from an idea of joining networks, like doing something as a group while still doing our individual projects. That was the whole idea. Sort of like an all-star team. That was the concept. And then it spun into what it is today.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I guess, what is it like? So I know you're, broadly called the left in America, if you can call it that. But what is your, I guess, okay, first, can you tell us a little bit more about what you, like when you broadcast and what you do?
Yeah, my show, which is Straight Out of Politics on the FHL network, FHL stands for Fred Hampton Leftist. The FHL network is Straight Out of Politics. That's every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. But we have, several shows. There's one that I really recommend, International Left Coalition, and that's a panel discussion of people from different parts of the world. just discussing different, current topics about that involve international solidarity. Usually, that's by Nick, and then there's the JB show that's on Sunday, so you can check that out tomorrow. It's 1 p.m. Eastern. And then there's the Savvy show. She just moved her show to Fridays. That one's at Fridays at 6 p.m. I think I'm missing a couple of people, but you get the gist. We have a lot of content on our channel already in just a few short months. We've only been doing this for since April 1st was our official launch. So we've only been doing it this short amount of time. So yeah.
That's really good. Because like I said, the one thing that everyone needs is good independent media. Unfortunately, I feel like it's often a chicken and egg in that when you have good content out, or at least accurate content, like knowing who the president of Cuba is or whatever, you're not going to get those million views that TYT gets.
Right. Well, that's because we've been conditioned as a population to salivate over stuff that is more meaningful when we're talking about news consumption, and to be drawn to more controversial, manufactured controversy. That's been our condition probably for at least 50 years, the conditioning of the American.
Well, what I noticed is that there are two things. First of all, there's the Pavlov's dog effect, where a lot of Americans just act like a lot of news stations act like Pavlov's dog, like stimulus. And what they don't think about is what is worth, why does something, there's no thought about why am I hearing about this? So about, let's see, I can name any one of many examples. For example, you hear about unrest in one of a million places, you have unrest. But when you hear about it in the American news on New York Times, you're like, why are you hearing about it? And then you realize, it's because it's a National Endowment for Democracy backed color revolution. So there's no analysis. They just assume that everything that needs to be there will be on the news without any analysis of what am I hearing? What am I not hearing?
Right. And part of that is, like I said, conditioning. And the other part that contributes to that, and I think is probably a bigger part, where I think basically you're saying politics is not being critically thought, or it's no critical thinking. And that surrounds, or it stems from suppressing wages. And that's why it's critical that wages are suppressed, because if you have to work 2 or 3 jobs, you don't have time to critically think what you're being fed to. You kind of just says, hey, it's on the news, it's in the paper, I'm just going to kind of go for face value.
I disagree with that. This is why. Because when you're very poor and you're working 3 to 4 jobs, you have real, actual problems to solve. So you're actually constantly critically thinking, because these are new problems that you have to, how am I going to feed my kids? What if this, that, what if my car breaks down? What am I going to do? And so you automatically develop critical thinking skills. I think the bigger problem is that there's a large portion of people who are the ones that can be right-winged or can be gullible or whatever. They're just very comfortable. And so, because I've noticed, I've read enough theory, and I've noticed this, with the history I've noticed, is that generally speaking, if you're comfortable with status quo, so a lot of people think it's fake news, but it's not. It's manufactured reality. So for you to believe that in the world where the U.S. is a benevolent force, whatever, you need to be in one of the suburbs in Connecticut, living in a nice, 2-acre house with really fancy cars and making $500,000. Does that make sense?
Right. But there's another category of people, and that's people who don't have the time to be engaged in politics. And that's what I was describing. Not thinking how to live your life. That's done on a daily basis.
No.
Being able to critically think the propaganda that's coming out
of the news is what I'm speaking of.
Okay, hold on. I feel like this is two different problems because yes,
Right, it is. It is.
So people who are able to critically think also don't have the time, but what you need in order for them to have any useful effect is collective action and being able to do like it on a huge scale of like millions of people, because you can't like lobby Congress. So I feel like that is a huge problem, is that there is no way for them to do it on a scale that is needed to get change. Does that make sense?
No, I'm not following you on that point.
Okay. So if you are a big corporation and you want to suppress minimum wage, you're going to call Joe Manchin and say, yo, Joe, we don't want the minimum wage. You need to filibuster it. That's it. But if you're a poor person, Fight for 15 has been going on for 10 years. And the only way to actually make it happen is somehow vastly change the structure of government. And I guess like in India, for example, the farmers, they had to bring, in order to do the farm bill, they had to like stop shipments from going into like 100 different countries and then like stop all roads. And then Modi was like, okay, I'm going to back up on this. So the kind of large scale action that was in India, it required like 500 million people to coordinate their actions together to do it. In the US, there has never been such a large scale coordination for there to actually make a difference, unfortunately. Am I
right? And again, it speaks to what I keep coming back to, that it goes back to the propaganda and the suppression of wages. Those are key to that. So
because they're working long hours, so then there is no time for them to coordinate, right?
I wouldn't make that necessarily direct connection. What I'm saying is, for example, I'll talk about my particular city where I grew up.
Is it near LA?
Compton.
Okay.
Compton. So,
okay.
We have a neighbor. He works, one of those warehouse jobs, and he's working literally 60 hours a day. He doesn't have time to, hey, after I work this 10, 12-hour shift, I have a family. I don't have time to go and research necessarily what Joe Biden said is true or what the Republicans are saying is true. Is they just kind of go, hey, these people are kind of with the black people. I'm talking about black people because I'm talking about this specific.
Of course, no worries.
This is, this team, the blue team is kind of with the black people. So I'll kind of go over there. What they say is kind of good. They're saying all the right things. And that's sort of the level of critical thinking that is even able to be done when you're working 60 hours.
Now I see what you're saying.
We're 60 hours a week. That's like, it's only a surface level where you only have time to even do that. And that is what's critical to keeping people from understanding what's really happening. Because it's easy to see through this propaganda like you and I see. But it's not easy when you don't have the time to do it because you're working 12 hours, then you got to get home and feed your family and prepare to do the same thing the next day. So that's hard.
Yeah.
And that I think the ruling class understands
perfectly.
That, and that's why the wages are always so forcibly suppressed. Like, it's ridiculous. $7.25, it's 2021.
Well, the thing about it is that they started in 2000. Okay, actually, since you're from the Fred Hampton left, I have I just sent Janet a great clip by Fred Hampton about this. He was a Marxist-Leninist, but they started in 2012. So that's 9 years for such an incremental, like it should be. And that's.
And it was behind at the time. When they raised it to that, it was behind, just like here.
Okay.
If they were to raise it now to 15, yeah, it's 15, but it's 14 right now in California and people can't make it. So $1 raise is not going to do
You get what I'm saying? Much.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, even if they raise it to that amount, it's still already so far behind that it's like, it's a drop in the bucket, really.
Well, yeah, it is a drop in the bucket. And please check out our episode where we talk about where we read this piece where Lenin tells American workers what they're entitled to. And Janet just will bring out this meme. But when we read that piece, if you take Lenin's calculation, we are entitled. Janet, I forgot. Can you explain how we did the calculations? You there?
Sorry, it takes me a second to get back over to mute. I was just pulling up that video. So we took the amount of the production back in the year 1914, correct? And so Lenin had done that in America, and he had done it, and he figured out that it was $4,000 that everyone in America should have gotten. So, and at that time, that equate till, we did this about 6 months ago, that was $52,000. So everybody in America that was a worker at that time should have had a wage of $52,000. Okay, so then
I'm just sending you, sorry to interrupt. I'm just sending you the meme you made just in case. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so then what happens if we look, today would be $52,000. But if you actually look at the means of production today, it's like $901,000 that every worker in America should be making.
That's how much we deserve.
Okay.
So we're totally, to me, that's like
behind.
Yeah, 15 is not what we should, there's a difference between asking for crumbs and then taking control of the whole bakery.
Right. But there's a lot of education that has to be done before something like that can be done. And
hold on. Thank you for saying that, because now you just teed it up for the perfect Fred Hampton clip.
You basically knowing my ideology, basically me knowing yours, you can support some of our programs. Is that what you're saying? Why not? And you believe in programs like the Breast of Children program, the free health clinics. I don't know.
We believe they're good things.
Uh-huh.
As a focal point to organize their mothers and fathers.
Uh-huh. There's no educational program here?
That's come out of the social license. You set that up. We can't put everything on one piece of paper.
What about this bank?
Credit union? Credit union. My brother, are you hip to credit unions? It is a bank.
Yeah, you go and borrow money?
Yeah, it's a bank. It's a bank. Owned by the people, run for the people, and by the people.
What will money be given out to people for?
Well, the people would decide that. You want to buy, whatever, the people in the community. You need some living room furniture, maybe? You need a car, maybe?
See, the thing is with me, you dig, I need to know some more about it. I wish you had some more literature about the education thing. Because you dig, as far as we're concerned, struggle, the way we look at struggle is that this depends on the educational thing, you dig. Because
this depends on the education. Well, the whole thing.
No, but in the end, this does. You can form this with no education. This,
no, not the way we're talking about forming it. Right. We're talking about forming it right. It's not on the paper. We didn't write it on the paper.
Form it right, no education.
No.
Let me give you an example. Jomo Kenyatta formed the excellent revolution with no education. And on the end thing, Jomo told the motherfucker, I said, well, you've been educated to hate the enemy, but I'm your brother. I help you lead the revolution. Now I'm more pressure. Another example, Papa Doc in Haiti. Papa Doc in Haiti hated everything white. Man, you couldn't put this white paper in front of Papa Doc's face. But he moved all the white people out over to be oppressed with no education. And the people that have been educated, they just said that we don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. So we got to know the educational program to find out what is going to be in the finale. A lot of people, Jomo Kenyatta is called not a revolutionary, but an ex-revolutionary. So it's Papa Doc. They brought on a successful revolution. That thing in the Mamas was a bitch. Bantu freaking fighters, all that kind of action. What we're saying is, there's the end. But you don't judge Castro now. You can't do it. Nobody in this room could judge whether Castro's going to be a revolutionary or not. You know what I mean? We're talking about things, with China. the People's Republic, and even at the stage they're in now, talking about even going on further into a communistic state. That's what we're talking about. Those are revolutionary. So we got to understand here the educational program that you have to be able to figure out whether it will go on the right lines, where the people will end up in a situation where they can be able to really control themselves. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, the people take this local foundation and start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's the people's thing anyway. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa now, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, it's so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in an emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be Catholics. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Thoughts? Because it literally it's everything you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the first part of it I couldn't hear as much, but once he started talking about the education, I can hear him clearly. He elevated his speech, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a good point to bring up here why I thought or why Nick and I came up with the idea of the General Strike Summit, because there's a lot of allies that want to go now, let's go strike. And I'm ready. We're all ready. All of us who are in these conversations right now, we're ready for this now. But we need more people. And in order to get more people, that requires education. So, I mean, that's just the fact of any successful revolution. I always want to put that in there. At successful revolution, you have to educate people. Otherwise, I mean, what's going to happen? These people are probably, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say with the Bolsheviks, by educate, they had a much harder task because the people who they went to work as children and they didn't know how to read or write. So Lenin's first thing he did was teach people. He got arrested. He got kicked out of university for teaching people how to read. And it always reminds me of this really funny meme about my grandfather was, you know what I'm talking about, Janet? This guy was like, my grandfather was illiterate in Poland. And so that's why he was, what did he say? He was very anti-communist. And what you notice is that all communist countries, the first thing they work on is the literacy education part, because the more you know, and you're not a sociopath, life turns you towards Marx.
Right. I mean, and I think that's the reason education in the United States is specifically underfunded. That's the reason why education in the United States is almost entirely made up stories and lies and false truths. It's just the miseducation of our population is key, or of any population if you're trying to control it without physical force. But now we're seeing that's even going away. Physical force is even playing.
I mean, there was always physical force, as in, it's just that it always, okay. So the thing is that I think it's either a balance where you can only manufacture so much of consent, then you have to use the state's coercive power. But it seems like, I guess it's...
Yeah, you're seeing that now with the mandates.
What mandates?
The vaccination mandates in the United States.
What are they? I'm not...
Not enough Americans were getting vaccinated, and now the state is using coercive powers, like tying it to your employment, to force people to get vaccinated. Because, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, that's just an example of the coercive power that you were just speaking to.
Oh, I was just thinking about how the police just I don't know, blindly, even with your, can we talk about your friend, or is it not okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, yesterday with your friend, the way they arrested her and they were just very brutal, your friend Liv.
Right. Like that's the United States. Like if you didn't know where that was, the average American might have thought like this. What hostile conflict is this at? Like it was ridiculous.
Well, that's exactly it, because Lenin says this, Marx says this. The purpose of a state is to oppress one class over another, and the United States, for the past 100 years, has literally been at war with illiterate peasants. Like every single war the U.S. has fought, the Korean War, it's been because they've fought basically illiterate farmers, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. So literally and like both in the physical world and the metaphorical world, the U.S. has always been at war with the working class. And
it's kind of hard to go away from that if that's the foundation the country is started on. I mean, the Constitution was not written for anybody but white men. I mean, you starting there. I mean, it's worse
than that, because I wrote an article where James Madison literally said, the purpose of our state is to protect those with property from those without. He's like, that is why the Constitution. So it is literally, but of course, who property was back then, that's why they had to make, because of that thing there, that's why they had to make Africans property in law.
Need more anarchists dunked on, Nazis ripped apart, and the libs' real intentions to be trotted out? Hit the like and subscribe buttons below, and then go over to historically.substack.com and check out our newsletter and podcasts.
What's she doing? What's going on with Liv, Jay?
They pushed her arraignment to, I believe it's 2. Yeah, 2. So that right when this started.
Okay.
But those things never start on time.
Yeah. So you're waiting to find out what she needs for bail and stuff.
Yeah.
How much is it?
Oh, that's where she's going to find out all of that.
So she's still okay. So she's still going to be in some sort of like facility until then?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. Maybe she's released on her own, and given a court date to come back for some charges, or maybe they keep her, or maybe there's some kind of bail. That's what this court appearance is about, to find out all of those questions. So,
okay, Janet, have we done this? Because I know we've done the one about the agricultural workers in like the Bible Belt.
We didn't do this piece.
Okay, I think you're gonna like this one, but we can, if you don't want to do this, we can do the one specifically on the general strike. So this is what Lenin compares. This is actually Lenin's piece on how racist America was back then.
You read and just stop as you're just reading.
Yeah, it's just done casually, like a book club.
Okay. I've never been in a book club, so I don't know how.
Okay, now you're going to be on the Lenin book club, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right. So just start whenever?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Russians and Negroes, what a strange comparison. The reader may think, how can a race be compared with a nation? It is a permissible comparison. The Negroes were the last to be freed from slavery, and they still bear more than anyone else the cruel marks of slavery. I don't have my glasses, sorry. So
do you want to go get it, or I can read?
I'm not in a place where I have my.
Okay, here. Let me read it, and then.
No. Let me try. I'm just saying that's the reason why I'm kind of.
No worries.
Even in advanced countries, for capitalism has no room for other than legal emancipation, and even the latter is curtailed in every possible way. I want to stop there because, this can be read about the African or African American experience from day one, where he says, they've been free from slavery, but they still bear a lot of the same trauma, and a lot of the same scars.
Cruel marks is what he says. Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And then this part here, where he says capitalism has no room
other than basically legal emancipation. That to me the current reading of that would be Black elites, and even those people do have some things, some racial hurdles to overcome. So that is absolutely on point. Just the first sentence, right?
Okay, this is exactly the reaction we wanted. What it is ironically in Russia, literally this, like the same year slavery was about slavery, serfdom, whatever, potato, was about abolished in Russia and here. But then in both countries, they found a way to literally have the same system, but with a different name.
Right.
But of course, in Russia, the slaves actually ended up winning and they ended up kicking out the masters. But here in America, unfortunately, that did not happen. So that was like the big point of divergence was 1917. But
it absolutely reads true today. And like I said, this could be true at several different points in history as far as the Black experience in the United States. It could be true. But I'll continue.
Hold on one second. I have one more comment.
Okay.
Like for me right now, if I was going to say the way that slavery is still existent is probably through the prison industrial complex, because a lot of people don't know this, but private prisons literally rent out labor to private companies.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people also don't know that government-owned prisons do that too, or something similar. It's terrible. The prison industrial complex in the United States, I liken it to the like you just said, to the slavery industrial complex in the United States, or actually the world. It was because everybody was making money off of slavery. And just a side note here about American history: slavery is not a footnote. The Atlantic slave trade is not a footnote, which is what American history tries to tell. Like, oh, that just happened here. No, this was a slave state.
Yep.
The reason the United States became a superpower was because of what the slave labor produced and allowed them to make all this money. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but yes, there's a direct connection in my opinion. So I agree with you.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay, so I'll continue. With regard to the Russians, history has it that they were almost freed from serf bondage in 1861. It was about the same time following the Civil War against the American slave owners. The North American Negroes were freed from slavery. The emancipation of American slaves took place in a less reformative manner than that of Russian slaves, and that is the difference.
Well, I mean, even more. Okay, so this is before 1917. So even the way Russia did its emancipation versus America, right. Even Lenin back then said that, like, they didn't really emancipate people from slavery at all.
The reaction to Reconstruction was so bad they stopped.
Well,
that was the attempt. Was Reconstruction, and they just stopped.
What I'm going to say is that in Russia, they also had their own version of the KKK called the White Army. They did everything you can, like when the slaves, like every atrocity, like what you'll hear about, like they would there is this guy who the US funded, of course, that gang raped women and cut off their breasts. And I've seen the exact same thing from a Senate hearing that the KKK did, literally gang rape, cut off breasts. So so the main difference is that they had a revolution where they had somebody like Lenin who said, okay, we're going to kill. He literally had an order that's like deport and shoot all these White Army terrorists. And in America, we had a government who was just interested in profit, and they didn't they did not crack down hard enough on the counter-revolution, if that makes sense. But you're right.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
But the Reconstruction, yeah, that was when the first wave of the KKK came, right? Or is that the second wave? Hold on.
No, that's just after, because the idea was, after slavery, there should be some sort of process to assimilate these people back, meaning the slaves, back into society.
Yeah.
And those attempts were so fought against by the South and slave owners that they eventually just stopped, enforcing it, and it kind of just went away. So
and Lenin refused to do that. Like that was the main difference, is that in Russia they refused, as in they were like, we're gonna take our guns and so any kind of gradualism. Like there's no integration. It's a power struggle, and you have to just literally turn your guns against them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
I hope I didn't say something too much that will get you in trouble.
No, not at all. I'm not a get in trouble kind of guy, or at least care about getting in trouble kind of guy.
Hold on. Before you start, the Pashas and the Purishkoviches. The Purishkovich was the largest slave owner, or the largest landowner in Russia. So he was like the biggest slaveholder, is what you can say. Like I'm sure America has one too.
Does family still have a lot of money today?
No, because they had a revolution and they overthrew them and they got rid of them. So they have nothing.
Good.
There are no Purishkoviches left.
Good.
He was shot.
Yeah. That sounds like music to my ears, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, he was part of the White Army, and he was shot in he was captured by the Red Army, and then he died from typhus in Novoruskin before he could escape. So the Soviet writer Lyubov describes Purishkovich as the first fascist. Okay, we're going.
I thought you were going to say something else. Okay, right on. Okay, I can read let me see, where was I?
That is why today.
That is why today, half a century later, the Russians still show many more traces of slavery than the Negroes. Indeed, it would be more accurate to speak of institutions and not merely of traces. But in this sort of article, we shall limit ourselves to a little illustration of what we have to say, namely the question of literacy. It is known that literacy is one.
It is known that illiteracy.
I'm sorry. It is known that illiteracy is one of the marks of slavery in a country oppressed by Fasha. Is that how you say it? Fasha?
Yeah.
And Purishkoviches. And they're like the majority of population can not be literate. That is key.
Yep.
That's why you outlawed you learning how to read. Like you could be like lynched and killed just for learning how to read.
Absolutely. And Lenin actually in Russia too, the first time they sent him to prison was because he taught workers how to read.
Yeah, just think about that. That's what I always say about that particular point of not letting a person read. Your oppressor knows the way that they can be overthrown, and it begins with education.
Yep.
So I think that says a lot. And it happens in many different parts of the world, in many different versions of many different oppressors throughout history. That is key.
Hold on. I have a quick thought that just occurred. I'm trying to figure out how they continue, how they tried to continue that in the U.S. And in modern day schools in the U.S., like I've heard something called the school to prison pipe. I'm not 100% familiar with it, but the school to prison pipeline, where a lot of ordinary behavior by kids are just criminalized, especially in neighborhoods where there's a lot of Black people or Latino people or Asians.
Yeah. School. Basically, it's the concept of school to prison pipeline is that you're not providing options other than to go to prison, because if you don't have options, you're going to commit crime to survive. That's inevitable. And the ruling class understands this. They've understood this throughout history. They understand that. and it also feeds into the police state here in the United States. This is why they can keep funding it, because what happens is this is Thomas Frank. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's a great writer in the United States. Thomas Frank.
Listen, liberal. I know who he is.
Yeah, but he is a liberal. But
No. He wrote a book called Listen, Liberal.
No, yeah, I do know that book. But I'm saying he does call himself. Okay. No, actually, he doesn't call himself.
Thank God.
In an interview. But I forget what was.
You were talking about Thomas Frank and something about literacy.
Oh yeah, he was saying that. No, I moved on from shoot. That I was thinking there. Yeah, I lost it. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. Continue. We can continue.
It was a good point. Okay, so yeah.
When you remember, just like say it out. Just blurt it out. Okay.
Yes, yeah. It'll jump back in my head, and then when it does, I'll blurt it out. So in Russian, there are 73% of illiterates, exclusive of children under 9.
So
are they saying that currently? They're saying currently.
No. This was in no. Russia has 0 illiterates right now, thanks to Lenin. But in 1913, 73% of children under the age of 9 were illiterate because they were so poor and they were working in factories, mines, as slaves. So that meant that out of every 10 people, every 10 children, 7 of them were not in school.
That is that's terrible. And the thing is, it's by design.
It was by design.
By design. So among the U.S. Negroes, there were in 1900 44.5% of illiterates. That
meant that out of every 10 people, 4 or 5 of them could not read in U.S. who were Black in the 1900s.
It's just that is just terrible. That's terrible. When I think of those, I try to put myself.
Yes.
Yeah, try to think wow, what if I wasn't, forced laws against me being able to read, or my kids.
Yeah.
Unimaginable to me right now, in this day and age. But so, that's it's just terrible. Such a scandalously high percentage of illiterates is a disgrace to a civilized, advanced country like the North American Republic. Line right there.
Yeah.
Such a scandalously high percentage of illiterates and is a disgrace in a civilized, advanced country like that. Speaks volumes right there.
Yep.
And that's what the United States have a way of talking out of both sides of its mouth. It's known as a land of freedom while at the same time having slaves.
I know.
It's just
double talk.
Yeah, it's double talk. Okay, so furthermore, everyone knows that the position of the Negroes in America is in general one unworthy of a civilized country. Capitalism cannot give neither complete emancipation or even complete equality. That is absolutely true.
Yep. I mean, it'll never give complete and under capitalism, you can't have equality or I don't know what more to say.
And this is why it's so bizarre to me that people buy the pairing of capitalism with democracy. As go hand in hand. It's so bizarre to me. It's like that. That's bizarre.
No, you're absolutely right. What? Like I said, the U.S. can never be for democracy because the minute people actually have a choice, they're going to be like, okay, we don't want to be exploited. And so, that's why Karl Marx had to come. They corrupted the word democracy, like freedom and democracy, and that's kind of like in outside the U.S. and the rest of the world. Everyone thinks democracy means capitalism.
This is one of the points I did want to bring up around Thomas Frank. It just jumped in my head. And that is organizing movements. Successful movements always come about from organizing around people's lives, not around a political issue, not around, Bernie Sanders. Like, that is a successful movement. That's why you saw when Bernie Sanders dropped out, like, what happened to the movement?
Nothing.
Because there wasn't a real movement. There were just people coming together to vote for this.
Okay. Well, the cool thing is that the person who's literally, there has been no successful, every successful revolution in history has been done using Lenin's method, and there have been 0 successful revolutions without using Lenin's method. So I always tell people that I wish I knew how to do a Trump voice, but I always want to do a Trump voice and listen to revolutionaries who are winners and not losers. So Lenin has a great piece called "What Is to Be Done," where he explains obviously the first one is to have an independent working class press. Yes. But absolutely, it is done around people's lives. And Thomas Frank is actually right. And Lenin goes into deep detail in many other pieces about how to do it around people's lives. But yeah, you're right. He's right.
Awesome. It is instructive that among the whites in America, the proportion of illiterates is not more than 6%.
Hold on. Okay. We're going to put up a graphic of when the show's on, but that means, so 44.5% among Black people and only 6%. So that's 7 times more than among whites. Wow.
Right.
And
the thing is, the Black community has never been able to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, that's the chicken and egg, is that they won't until there's like a big change in who's in charge. Like, this is it's like the chicken and the egg problem.
Right. But
and there won't be
before black people, or not just Black people, indigenous people, you're not going to gain. It is impossible to gain true freedom under
this. Exactly.
Yeah, it's not possible. Capitalism has to have an underclass. That is
exactly
that is part of capitalism that is required for it to be capitalism. You have to create an underclass. You have to. That's why we have these social programs on purpose, to create this lower class people that need to work these low wage jobs.
Well, on top of it, if you look at what the U.S. does abroad, what they do is they literally create poverty, as in inject, like they have the IMF, which takes away the monetary sovereignty, and then they privatize everything, and then they lower the wages, austere all the, and so it just
it's the same MO internationally versus domestically. They use the same strategy both times, so that is absolutely correct. Let's see. But if we divide America into what were formerly slaveholding areas and American Russia, and non-slave areas and American non-Russia, we still find 11 to 12% of illiterates among the whites in the former and 4 to 6% in the latter area.
So basically what he's saying is that in the South, in the 1900s, like, I guess misery trickled up to the whites too, because there was like twice as much illiterate whites in the South than in the North. So it was like trickle up misery.
Right. Well, this is where this is sort of where the rural white lower class was created here and around this time, and they have never been able to get out of it either.
It's only gotten bigger, if anything, for both groups.
Exactly. So last sentence. The proportion of illiterates among the whites is twice as high in the former slaveholding areas. It is not only the Negroes that show traces of slavery.
Yep.
Shame on America for the plight of the Negro. So that the second and last sentence there, where it says, "It is not only the Negroes that show traces of slavery," that is absolutely correct. And you can see it in the South. Now, my family is originally from the South. I live in California now, but so when I go back to reunions, and it's like you can still see the residual effects of slavery in those areas, and it's just shameful.
Yeah, like when I went to South Carolina, the first thing I was like, oh my God, it looks like a third world country.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and you go to Detroit or New Orleans, it's like terrible. It's terrible.
Oh yeah, I mean, because they need, like I said, they have people to overestimate their abilities and underestimate how much a state is used for the creation of poverty.
This piece here, the analysis between the two plights of the different peoples that he's talking about here is pretty on point, and and I just want to note, capitalism has been having the same problems
for centuries. Yeah, you'd be surprised. This is why I started the show, because people like often, not saying that, okay, I'm saying this, they're often like annoying white people that they're like, why am I going to read Lenin? How is he irrelevant? And then sometimes it gets creepy when all you have to do is change one word and he's still relevant a century later. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's because capitalism hasn't changed. So, capitalism hasn't changed, but yes, it is. And the reason is very logical. It's because if you configure society around what makes some rich guy a factory, a lot of the things in the society, the configurations are going to stay the same, right?
Right. If you configure, just like you said, if you configure a society or economic system to funnel money to the richest people, they stay rich. This is why we have, families of generational wealth, of just generations and this is how it happens. The Bush family didn't just get to where they were. The Bush family is known for I think his George W. his grandfather was a senator or something like that.
It's even worse than that. Yeah. In World War II, his grandfather was not against Hitler.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Oh, I know. I know.
So his grandfather was literally one of them was a collaborator.
But that is the point. Is just like these families and this generational wealth, this white generational wealth, and a lot of times that's actually built off an indigenous and Black labor. Mm-hmm. Is still here. Like the Kraft family who owns an American football team called the Patriot. The Kraft family.
That's from the Philip Morris group, right?
Exactly. That's where I was going to get.
They're cigarettes.
Cigarettes, and that's tobacco. So
from slavery.
His family was making money off Blacks in the field. Now he's making money off Blacks in the field.
Wait, which team does he own?
He owns the New England Patriots.
I did not know that.
What a fitting name.
I live outside Boston, yes.
Yeah. They're in Boston. They're a Boston team. They used to be called the Boston Patriots, but they kind of represent that area, and they changed their name, I think, in the 80s or 70s. They changed it to the New England Patriots to represent that whole entire area.
Yeah, I think it was the end of the 60s. They changed over to New England. Yeah, I actually saw Kraft in a car one time, and I gave him the finger because I live near Foxborough, and he didn't look at me. I was mad.
My other FHL sister, Sabrina, lives in the same place, Boston.
Yeah, she's around here.
Awesome, cool. Oh, I think that was it. Yeah.
Hold on. That's very interesting. I was just looking up one statistic from Italy a while back where they did this statistic. Like they looked at all the old records of families, and they found that the families that were rich in the medieval times, like in the 1300s, were still rich today, 6 or 7 centuries later. Yeah. And the families that were poor in the 1300s are still poor today.
Like they'll have a couple of people here and there break through and with some sort of idea to make them a lot of money, but that's not at all comparable to the old money of centuries
Yeah.
in French.
And a lot of people, like, one phenomenon that maybe people have noticed is how, like, sometimes, like, lottery winners end up going bankrupt. That's because the money you have is from the network of, like, other rich people and their, like, resources, and it's like forcibly taken. And if you're just a lottery winner, lots of times you won't have the same ability to reproduce your wealth.
No.
Right?
Yeah, just because you landed on some money doesn't make you part of the club.
Exactly. And a lot of it. So you're right. I wish, like, one of us, I can send you this book, like, afterwards. This guy wrote, like, a 3-volume book called A History of Great American Fortunes. And I bet you if we were to write the same book 100 years later, I bet you the characters will be the same. Like, I don't think we actually have a very good accounting, but I bet you, it is.
Yeah, I think that is so amazing that a lot of people, I think the vast majority of just the human population, don't look back and see, like, a lot of this stuff has already happened before. And if we just look back in history, we would be able to see some of the things that I'm kind of going off of a tangent here.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, some of the things that our governments are doing, they're using the same tactics that their forefathers and the senators and Congress people that came before them. It's like we're still having the same problems. Gasoline's too high.
Oh yeah.
About climate change, living wage. Like, we need better wages. People need to have help. It's the same problems that capitalism never fix. Never fix.
Exactly. The ironic, one thing that just popped up when you said the same problems is that the Tsar of Russia had this secret police service called the Okhrana. I don't know how this happened, but a lot of the records ended up in the Hoover Institution in California. And then the FBI was created too. And they use a lot of the same tactics that the Tsar of Russia used for surveillance, even today.
That's just terrible. And I heard they use, well, this is the tangent, but I heard they use Israeli training also.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll send you the episode we did on this, but so yeah, they have a lot of these surveillance technologies that basically Israel goes around the world and trains all the fascist polices around the world, for lack of a better word.
No, that's the word. There's not a lack of a better word. That's literally what they're doing, right?
Yeah, they are. That's literally, the fashion. And so with using this surveillance technology, and it's very dangerous. I mean, it is a lot of extensive surveillance on a scale that most people don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
about the Israeli techniques, is it because it's brutal?
It's horrible. I mean,
everybody kind of clings to that.
It's horrible, yeah, and it is. I mean, I don't know what more to that. It's very, like, a lot of violence and horrible.
Terrible.
Yeah. So in that case, like I said, do you guys have any projects or anything like that next, or what are you guys up to?
Let's see what's coming up for me. My show next week, I'm trying to put together what I call a flamethrower episode.
What is that?
This is people who I feel that are for direct action, but they're like next level direct action. They're like for just for next level direct action. That's the best way to explain it.
Okay.
I'm having a panel, for that. And then, of course, the General Strike Summit, we're going to start releasing some of the names of the guests and everything, and the scheduling and all that stuff. That's going to be coming out in the next several weeks. So those are probably the two biggest things that I'm working on right now.
Well, that's really cool. I can't wait. And hopefully for the General Strike Summit, you guys will include some Lenin in it.
Yeah, like we're open for everything. Again,
Okay.
education, and as we read today, Lenin is relatable today.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? So absolutely, I would welcome that.
Okay. Well,
And we
Lenin
can
had.
talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Well, we'll talk. Okay, I'll have Janet send you my WhatsApp so that you can text me. But yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And check out Jay on Fred Hampton Left.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. Solidarity.
Absolutely. Hi, welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So, yeah, it's kind of sad and it's kind of cool that Lenin's forever relevant because the world we live in is just so dystopian. So, the first comment I want to address is way back when somebody named James said that a lot of people think Milton Friedman fixed Chile. So, the thing we have to understand is which class point of view. So, if you are, let's say you own a copper mine, yes, Milton Friedman did make copper mines more profitable for you. But if you were a worker in the copper mines, you probably got it. Well, Pinochet's constitution was terrible. It basically made it illegal to strike. In fact, when Pinochet came on power, striking meant really horrible things would happen, like a collective punishment. And any organization based on class, like unions, were forbidden. It was one of the most undemocratic constitutions ever. So unfortunately, what people don't realize is that the bourgeoisie don't completely lie. They tell the truth, but from their class point of view. So that's the same thing about the Soviet Union. You're hearing about things like, oh my God, communists are so authoritarian. Well, if you are a fascist corporation like the Krupps, yes, they are going to be policing you, following you everywhere because you're a psychotic fascist who deserves that. So, New York Times too, you'll see, they called Mussolini a new hope. But then they cry about all the authoritarian public schools in Cuba and the Soviet Union. So unfortunately, until people realize that each news source comes from a point of view and you have to figure out which point of view they're speaking on behalf of, people are not going to be able to discern anything. Because if we understand the world as a fundamental class conflict, when it benefits one class, it's going to oppress the other. So you kind of have to see it as a weighing scale, is what I'm going to say. Oh, by the way, so somebody just informed me. Okay, this is the one thing I hate about breadtubers is that I have to know about them from against my will, and then they have to say really stupid things, and so I have to address it because they said really stupid things. So this guy named Haas, who I don't think he has much politics other than inappropriately swearing, and that's about it, I believe. But he apparently commented about me on stream at, I believe, around 3 hours. So let's listen. Janet?
Hold on. I couldn't find exactly.
No worries. Exactly at 3 hours, somebody asked about me, and then he says, she's a liberal.
Okay, hold on one second.
Okay, in that case, I can continue to talk. Just let me know when to stop. Okay, so let's see. What else do we say? Let me look at other comments. Okay, Phil G. Yeah, has a really good thing called the company business about the CIA. Oh, by the way, yeah, Dave, you guys know about. Thank you so much, Olympia Logic. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. Please, I don't have the 1,200 subscribers like Haz, so I just have you guys. Why am I always looking at my phone? Because otherwise, I have ADHD. So if I don't have something to tinkle, like fidget with, I won't be able to handle myself. So I just need something to fidget with constantly, even if it's coffee at 11 a.m. p.m. Or Janet, we can't do this one yet because I don't have her origin, like I don't have the translation yet. So let's skip this one. So basically, this journalist asked Putin about using energy as a weapon. And then he said, okay, we're not going to use energy as a weapon. We don't want a Cold War, blah, 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 blah. And then she asked the same question again. And then he says something like, oh, beautiful women. She repeatedly asked the same question. And he said it like, bless her heart. You know how in the South, often when they're being passive aggressive to you, they're like, bless her heart. My favorite experience with that was when I was at Cornell West at the Harvard seminar. Somebody asked him about who did Michael Eric Dyson. And Cornell West said, I love him as a human being. And everyone knew that was an insult. Because most people, Cornell West loves like a brother. So that's kind of what Putin was doing, was being passive aggressive, kind of like bless her heart kind of thing, which of course gets mistranslated in America or totally interpreted out of context. And that woman is annoying the crap out of me because now she's like, oh, this is how women's rights in Russia. And I'm like, oh my God, you suck. Because I bet you like everyone's grandmothers were shooting thousands of Nazis while God knows what your family was doing back then. But anyways, yeah, so let's I guess watch this.
Alpha than you. You're not the fucking alpha of the soy boys like how you pretend you are. You're not. Vouch acts like he's the fucking bouncer of leftism the same way Chris Chan acts like he's the bouncer of Sonic. And everyone just like lets him think that. And it's not that they let him think that because they're like, they care about shattering his universe. Like, just no one cares. Okay, be the bouncer of Sonic, dude. No one gives a fuck about your make-believe world. And same thing with Vouch. Like, you want to pretend to be the bouncer. It's like, you're wrong. It's not true, but if you insist.
Are you even hearing that?
Yeah, no, I'm hearing all of it. Don't worry. Yes.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was even going through.
No, I don't even need it to go through because I know what's going on.
Okay. All right. Hold on.
We'll let you think that. We just don't care. What leftist community is Vouch talking about? Okay? He's talking about himself, SDL, Merrick, ContraPoints, Hassan, and literally like who else? Shu? I don't know. And AOC. Okay, that's your community. Keep them. I don't want anything to do with your community. But it's like the idea that that's the left is just kind of funny to me, because it's not true. Opinions on Esha? I don't like Esha. Look. Esha is a liberal. Okay, Esha's a liberal. Esha's a liberal. My family comes from Lebanon. Okay, in Lebanon, Esha would be considered like a Americanized, liberal, moralistic kind of liberal person. Like, I'm sorry, it's true.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
Okay.
Very elitist.
Are you done with that?
No. Go ahead. He has a little bit more.
Oh, he has more on you? Oh,
Yeah.
Good.
You know, like this kind of elitist, liberal, moralizer, whatever. That's just the truth. you guys gotta understand is like, bro, I feel like if Vaush was in Lebanon, he would be with the March 8th Alliance. Or is it the opposite? Let me see.
Oh God.
Let me tell you, I know. Oh, it's he'd be with the March 14th Alliance. Listen, Vaush in Lebanon, he'd be a Katabi, right? He'd be affiliated with the Kataib, right, which is like the phalangist, far right, pro-American group.
Oh God.
But they're very liberal, and they're like westernized, and they're liberal, and they're enlightened, and they're kind of moralistic. And then where I hail from, people are just a bit more rough. They're just a bit more toxic, and they're more, deplorable, and they're more, down south. My parents come from South Lebanon. They're just more like, just more realistic about life,
Okay, so this is enough. Okay, so let us
Worth left and right in America.
Okay, so the first one was really funny, where he's like, if Wash were in Lebanon, he'd be from the March 8th Alliance, and then he's like, no, I meant March 14th. Let me look that up. Well, the cool thing is about a year ago, we had a really great episode with Rania Kalyak about Lebanon. And if you had listened to it, you'd understand what happened with the Cedar Revolution. It was one of the color revolutions, one of many that they were attempting in Lebanon. But that part was funny. Okay, as for liberal, hold on. The first thing is for Comrade Zoo. Yes, I know that the current debate issues cannot be solved by debate, speech, or talking. But what can be solved is whether I can pay rent for this month or not, because I make my living via my podcast and my YouTube show. So I need to maximize revenues, and the best way to do it with YouTube is to basically do these troll videos, and then you get suggested on the algorithm so that you can get some of their audience. That's literally the only way I can make my money. So that's true. Like, I don't know what else I can do. Okay. As, I'm addressing this comment here. So, like I said, like I said, the only thing you can solve with YouTube is, okay. Okay, so now the next thing. Okay, so he called me a liberal because what happened is that he made some really dumb comment about, what was the dumb, I remember, okay, last week. He wrote like a 42-page essay about Luna Oi's husband or something like that, like about how she's like miscegenation or something crazy like that. So last week I addressed how bad his who writes 42 pages on Luna Oi? It's like such a waste of time. Anyways, after that he made a really idiotic statement where he showed a picture of Vietnamese holding the American flag. But I noticed something. They called the capital city Saigon and not Ho Chi Minh City. And I was like, oh, they look like they are supporters of the old Saigon government and not the new Ho Chi Minh government. So he's kind of seething that I noticed that. But the thing that I critiqued him on is the idea of American patriotism, in that where he was confusing cause and effect. So let's just go back to his country, Lebanon, and talk about everything the U.S. has done in Lebanon, which I seem to know better than he does. For example, let's see. Okay, so I don't know where to start. Like, give me a rant. Okay, so we'll know, but let's see. Where do we? I don't even know where to start. Okay, let's see. In 1958, let's see. About 1,000 U.S. storms just stormed Lebanon, and they literally. Why did they they invaded it because it was allegedly to be on. Well, basically, that's how the Phalangist movement, which is the right-wing extremists, there are some Lebanese of French descent who are still there, and there are some Lebanese who are. It's kind of Lebanon actually, strangely enough, has a Roman Catholic population for an Eastern country, which is not normal, and that's because. When the French colonized it, they brought some Roman Catholic churches there. So and the U.S. went to kind of recolonize it, or at least set up a new bourgeoisie class there. And then we know about the 1983, the Israel's land grab, and then what happened was that Hezbollah was able to fight back, and then there was a Shia aligned government, of course, which the U.S. has been constantly sanctioning, threatening everything. So even if he were to be honest about what the U.S. has done to his own family, and he felt sick enough, there's only one exact sentiment you can have, and that's what Hezbollah says. But of course, he's not even willing to actually stick up for his own family, to be honest. Because he's too busy opportunistically courting racists. I really don't know. But that's the thing about American patriotism, is that it's a cause and effect thing. If you knew everything that the U.S. did, there is no way you can feel any emotion besides being sick to your stomach. And so if you are if the proletariat, if you're actually giving the proletariat the complete political education, you're gonna assume that they're not total sociopaths. They're going to feel as sick to their stomach as I do every single day. So in order to foster American patriotism, you're going to either have to hide from the proletariat what the U.S. does, or you're going to have to claim it's morally okay. So that's the main problem with American patriotism. But notice how I gave a very good, logical, methodical, dialectical reason that was rooted in material reality, in that there is a list of actions. And how humans feel when they see things like, oh, the U.S. exterminated 626 villages in Guatemala. There's literally only one emotion you can feel if you are an empathetic person. We all don't like it when infants get their head smashed with a sledgehammer. So that's kind of where the Western... And if he's from Lebanon, there's less than an excuse for him to even court this idea, because he should know better. But he doesn't. Or he does know better, and he wants to be like the, I guess, Candace Owens of Lebanon. I don't know what it is. But it's kind of funny how he couldn't even figure out... And it shows you how remote it is. It's his own... Apparently it's his own country, and he can't figure out the political parties. Well, with India, I can tell you which parties who's going to belong. I can say, okay, if Vash grew up in India, he'd be a BJP or a Shiv Sena. And I understand that he uses cultural signifiers, but every country that the U.S. every ruling class that's courted by the U.S. will be educated in the West. So they'll have Western mannerisms. But that doesn't mean they're liberal. It just means that they're psycho-fascists often. And so, again, lack of dialectical thinking. Maybe it doesn't even matter to him because, yeah, it's just really idiotic. I don't know what else to say. Do we have any other questions or comments? Oh, somebody said Southerners love being fake polite. I know, which I know as a Southerner. My favorite is "I'll pray for you." I did not know that. That's nice. Let's see. Do we have? Okay, and I see. I'm gonna try to. I need some fiddle toys or something like that so that I have less. I don't have to look at my phone. If it can give me some fiddle, I need something to fiddle with all the time, so that way I don't have to look at my phone and I can make eye contact. But I get bored when I just have like here when I'm trying to make eye contact with the camera. All I have is like a blank screen. There's nothing to look at besides a wall. So, maybe the solution is some sort of I don't know. There needs maybe like I don't know. I need something maybe behind the wall that's like screensavery that just gives me something to look at so that I don't get bored. Maybe. Okay, someone on my TikTok just asked this, Jamie Brown. Fiddle, someone was telling me the U.S. is meddling in Central America again. This time with the Salvadorian president. Know anything about it? Not off the top of my head, but I can figure this out and do a stream later this week about it. So yeah, I will figure this out. Well, again, the problem with painting is it's just there, and then once the new novelty wears out, it's just a painting and it's kind of like a wall. It needs to keep it exciting for me to look at the wall so that I can keep eye contact as opposed to just a wall. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll do a stream about El Salvador and I'll see if I can get a guest. Yeah, we got one for Guatemala last time. That was really good. Check out our interview with Rosalind Castellano. It was great. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about Haas. And I hate the fact that I know about these bread tubers against my will. Let's see, do we have any other questions or comments? Let's see. Well, I have a question. How do we get increase our average stream views every week? Because I'd love to have more like 20 or even 30 people watching every week. So I don't know. We need to figure out a way to make sure that we get more people in. And if you have any ideas, I could do a competition or a quiz or whatever to make it more fun, let me know. And thank you so much, Jamie, that this was an awesome stream. Maybe I can... I'll message you on TikTok, so maybe we can have you on one day. Let's see. Oh, this week, you guys are going to love this week's episode for Historically, because we're going to be talking about Operation Gladio. Again, if you know about Operation Gladio, it's going to be literally impossible to feel anything besides hate, besides anger and disgust. So, yes, I can give absolutely. I will call you right after we hang up and I'm less hot. So, yes, of course I can. Let's see. What else? What else can we talk about? I don't actually. Oh, yeah, ContraPoints is fans have been mass reporting me, so I had to go private for a little while on Late Nights with Lenin TikTok. But that's actually about it. So if there's nothing else, I really wish I had people, there has to be a way to get more people on the stream. I don't know how to... Okay, the problem with cultivating drama with the bread tube moron is, what if... I don't even know how to... I mean, how does one cultivate drama with their bread... No, usually the problem is that often these bread tube morons see what's going to happen and they'll avoid drama with me. They'll pretend I don't exist because they know they can't really argue back. no one invites me on their streams because if people were inviting me on my stream, I would totally go on any stream that invites me, but no stream invites me because you see I'm toxic, and it kind of most people are just opportunistic, so that's unfortunately the problem. So if it were an obvious answer like this, I would totally have done it already. So it needs to be a new answer. Like, I go on every stream I've been invited to. I have tried to troll people, of course, for YouTube algorithms. So yeah, don't give me obvious answers that I would have already thought of. See, maybe I think the reason why he thought I was moralizing is because I literally said this, but I don't know if it's moralizing to say you're going. No, I would. But what he doesn't understand is I didn't say killing babies with a sledgehammer is bad or immoral. I said most people will find. Like, once they know that the US government has killed babies with sledgehammers, they will feel disgust. And that's actually not moralizing. That is dialectical analysis. I am pretty sure that most people will feel disgust once they hear about the Dos Eres massacre, where the US killed babies with a sledgehammer, and then they let the people who killed the babies with the sledgehammer escape to Miami. So, see, he's not even clever enough to... It's only moralizing if you don't find... No, they didn't stomp on the baby's head. They killed babies by hitting their head over with a sledgehammer. Yeah. I don't even understand. Let me look up the definition of moralizing. An action of commenting on issues of right and wrong, typically with unfounded air of superiority. Having or displaying an... Okay, so... unfounded air of superiority. So killing babies is wrong. Even if I were to say that killing babies is morally incorrect, it's not. Murdering babies with a sledgehammer is not unfounded moral superiority. That's just being human. Okay, so, but even then, I did not quite say that it was morally wrong. I said people will feel disgust if they know about it. So that's literally not moralizing, but whatever. See, this is why you need... I don't know what I was going to say, actually. I lost my train of thought. By the way, if there are any other performers, like maybe background music people or dancers, although you'd have to do dance without music, or mimes, or anyone who kind of wanted to do what Artsy did... we'd be welcome to doing a collaboration with you. So, anyways, I'll try to have a stream later this week. What else? Join us Monday at 9 a.m. for Monday with Mao. And yeah, I will try to figure out how to get around the copyright issue with the John Oliver clip. With that, all I have to say is Smrti fascismu I slobodu narodu. Sloboda narodu.